Chapter 10 Maxwell versus the Ants. After resting his eyes for a while, Dip gets back behind the wheel and keeps on driving for hours and hours. Through the windshield, the highway looks like a long, dark tunnel with a white line disappearing into the darkness. Like we're flying forward in a funny kind of spaceship, and the stars are fireflies in outer space lighting our way. I ask Dip where we're going exactly. We're heading for the horizon, he says. Never look back. Eyes on the future, Max. That's the way to go. Yeah, right, except when the future is a prison cell. Worm keeps snoozing, so fast and deep asleep you could set off a cherry bomb and not wake her. I can tell she's dreaming because sometimes her feet will twitch, like she's running, and her freckled face looks all squinted up and serious. And she's hanging on to her book so hard it'd take a crowbar to pry it out of her hands. I got a pretty good idea what she's dreaming about. That no good lying creep she calls you know who. Sitting there in the dark with the sound of the tires taking us farther and farther away, I'm feeling pretty sorry for myself. Wishing I'd never met the girl called Worm, because if I didn't know her, I'd probably be hanging out in the Down Under right this minute, reading my comic books or just lying there thinking about nothing at all. I wouldn't know any of the bad stuff that happened, or if I did, it would just be something I saw in the newspaper or heard about from Grim and Graham. But the truth is, I did rescue her crummy old miner's helmet, and that made her think I was Max the Mighty. And I did kick down that door and help her get away. So now I'm wanted for assault and kidnapping, and nobody is going to believe me, or strange red-haired girl who lives inside her books. Penny for your thoughts, Dip says. His big magnified eyes are looking at me in the rearview mirror. Nothing, I say. Just stuff. Dip keeps that old bus heading into the west until the sun rises behind us, and I never do fall back asleep. My nerves keep sparking and twitching under my skin, like I drank too much of Grimm's coffee or stuffed myself with chocolate bars. There's a thin kind of light in the sky that reminds me of skim milk, and the clouds look dirty and ragged where the wind is pulling them apart. When all the stars are gone, Dip slaps his hands on the wheel and says, Anybody feel like breakfast? Worm pops up like somebody turned her switch on. I'm hungry, she says, rubbing her stomach. So hungry I could eat a house. You mean a horse, I say. Ick, she says. What a disgusting idea. Then Worm gives me a big gotcha smile that makes me wish I'd never thought about how it would be if I'd minded my own business and thrown her stupid book away. She's the one who should be feeling sorry for herself, and instead she's trying to make me laugh. Dip pulls into a rest area and finds a spot way in back where the tall pine trees hide us from the highway. It's green and thick and real overgrown, like we're out in the wilderness somewhere beyond where the road ends. If I didn't know better, I'd think we were all alone. Dip gets out from behind the wheel real slow, and then he has to stretch and unwind, he says, because his old bones are creaky. I'm like a rusty door hinge, he says. Nothing a little Tai Chi won't fix. Is that what we're having for breakfast? I say. It turns out it's a strange looking exercise Dip does each morning, sort of like a slow motion dance he learned from this Chinese guy. First thing Dip does is face the rising sun and bow at the waist, like he's meeting the queen or something. Then he raises up his arms real slow and he turns in a circle, holding his hands out like he's looking through a camera. Next, he lifts his right leg and kind of dips down and around like he's going to tie himself in a big knot. So he changes his mind and unties himself real slow and goes around the other way. Remember, he's a fat guy in a killer Hawaiian shirt with long white hair done up in funny looking pigtails and a humongous nose and eyes that look like they're coming at you out of telescopes. At first I want to laugh because it seems so funny, a guy like him doing this ancient Chinese dance, but there's something so cool and quiet about the way he's moving, so smooth and clean that you have to take him seriously. He's holding out his hands and bringing them slowly around like they're the moon and he's the earth. And you can tell he's relaxed and peaceful inside. You never think an old guy like Dip could move so beautifully. Then I look over, and what do you know? There's Worm copying him. She's holding out her hands just like he is, and she's got one foot up, turning slowly around. Her eyes are closed tight, and there's this serious kind of look on her face that could almost be a sad kind of smile. The sun makes her red hair look glowy like the dawn, and she seems so quiet and easy with herself. She almost looks like a different person, except for the freckles. After he finishes his Chinese dance, Dip puts together the best breakfast ever. He brings out his little camp stove and sets it on a picnic table, cooks up a whole package of bacon real slow. So slow, my stomach is going nuts by the time he stirs in the scrambled eggs. He's got this brown bread that comes out of a can, and he toasts that in another fry pan and slathers it with butter. The deal is you put a chunk of egg and bacon on the bread and eat it that way, so you don't have to dirty any plates. You guys know the secret ingredient? Dip asks. Me and Worm are both chomping down so much, all we can do is shake our heads. Fresh air, he says. Fresh air is better than ketchup. Makes your taste buds tingle. When he sees how hungry I am, Dip opens another can of brown bread, and by the time I put that away, my stomach feels as tight as a drum. Tight, but good. I'm feeling so full, I decide to lay down on the grass and just stretch out. Dumbo idea. The hot feeling starts around my ankles, and before I have time to sit up, my butt is on fire. Help! I cry. I'm burning up. Help! I'm leaping and thrashing around like a total lunatic, ripping at my clothes. Fire ants! Yells Dip. Rachel, you better get in the bus. The reason he wants her to go into the bus is so she won't see me pulling my pants down and dragging my butt across the grass. I must look like the gooniest goon in the world, but I don't care. All I care about is getting rid of those fire ants. Most people would die laughing, seeing a huge guy like me drag his bare butt in the grass while he's yipping like a poodle. But Dip, he never cracks a smile. He takes charge and shows me how to shake out my pants and brush off the fire ants. And then he turns around and pretends to study the trees while I get dressed. It's not until we're all back in the prairie schooner that he lets it out. Then all of a sudden, he's laughing so hard it sounds like a volcano erupting. His glasses fall off, and his nose starts to run, and he can't hardly breathe. And just watching him gets me laughing too. That finally kicks Worm off, and pretty soon she's giggling and then laughing and pointing at me and making stupid goony faces and going, Help, help, my butt's on fire. And that makes me laugh even harder. That's when the cops come, when we're all laughing like total maniacs.